Welcome to the LCS Countdown and the final day of the regular season. We'll be checking in on some over-unders and awarding some very serious and hard-earned player honors until the timer reaches 0 and we jump into Champions Select. Gentlemen, it only took us 9 weeks to color coordinate, but we've did it. We're completing the best of 3 weekend back on blue side as the analyst desk.
How pumped are you guys? Baby blue. Baby blue, guys.
Look, I've got it. Look at me go.
I got some weird blues on my left and right. I'll say that.
This blue it's actually closer to baby blue on me, but there's some color stuff going on. I blame production. This is baby
blame
blue.
you, Mark. You were messing with technical stuff up until 12 seconds before the show went live. That's on you.
Don't spoil
if
it,
it's
Dash.
on anyone. All right.
No tech jokes before the show, guys.
Yeah, let's kick the day off by taking a look at how the teams are stacked up today. Of course, Team Liquid has locked up that first place bye at 14-3 currently. One more game left to play. Cloud9, TSM, the two teams battling it out for second right now. If they win out in their games today, forces a tiebreaker to see who gets that bye. And then, of course, the real interesting battle at the bottom of the table for the 8th and final playoff spot between CLG, Dignitas, and Immortals.
And I'm super stoked that Dig actually won their game. They go 1-1 in the weekend. They're done playing. But it does force CLG to actually have to win to earn their way into the playoffs. There was a possibility every team went 0-2 and CLG limped in, going 1-13 in the back end of the split. But because of this, CLG either needs to upset C9 or will have to beat Dig in a head-to-head if they lose. So I'm really excited that, this last playoff spot is actually being fought over.
Right, whichever team gets in will have fought for it and won to get it. All the way back, though, in week 1, I had these 3 guys give me some gut reactions, over-unders off of just 2 games of play. So it feels only right to return to it now and see how wrong they were. First up, Evil Geniuses. We had thrown the line at 11.5 wins.
Crumbs.
Okay.
Yeah, where are you going, buddy?
Listen. They started perfect gaming CLG. They looked great. We did not know this roster was going to go boom at the end of the split. So I think I can still say that I had high hopes for EG because of how well they did in spring.
They only got 10 wins in spring. You thought they'd get 2 more. You predicted 12 wins.
Well, they perfect game CLG. That counted a lot for me. Seeing a perfect game, we didn't know that at the time.
Yeah,
we
but
did
you're
not
also
know
saying
how bad they were.
Jizuke's not going to accidentally troll like 6 games out of the 9 or 18.
What do you guys want from me? This is a mistake.
What are you talking about, Prowley? Jizuke's not on the team.
Oh, yeah. I didn't predict that part. All right.
No one predicted that. All right, next up, Team Liquid. We were looking at place for this one. We put the line at 4.5 place. Well, they outdid that one.
Yeah, and to be clear, over means over in the standings. So we were
correct.
Me and Crumbs were saying they would get better. Probably is the odd man out here.
So explain yourself, Prowley.
I misunderstood, and I meant to say they would be better. No, I really thought that they'd be good. I thought they'd be around like 5th place. I did not think that they would just be able to steamroll so many teams and end up in 1st.
Okay, fair enough. Moving right along to Golden Guardians. This was a close one. The line was at 9.5 wins. They came so close to putting up their best regular split performance ever and fell just short, tying what they've done before.
It's so heartbreaking, too, because they really convinced me that they were going to pull this off. I was going to be happily wrong about this when they were 9-7 coming to this week, but then they went 0-2. They've really been struggling. They went back to those Nidalee comps that they weren't playing that well. And, I'm just sad to see them over-indexing in the early game again after I thought they were finally going to do it.
I still think they'll be a really strong playoff team because moving out of best of ones, they'll have more leeway to experiment with those early game comps and still deliver with later games.
Yeah, can always fall back on some of the more consistent stuff. Finally, TSM, we had the same exact line, 9.5 wins. And so probably the only one to call this
sole
one.
winner. Yeah, you guys had no faith. I mean, bringing Doublelift back, I knew he would come back to form in summer. I'm happy Bjergsen finally did, so I thought this was a little obvious. I don't know, you guys are just sleeping.
We got scammed. We didn't know Treats was coming in. You told me Treats was coming in week 1.
He's the carry of
I would have
TSM
switched my over-under right away.
You would have called that, Crumbs? You think Treats would have popped off as hard as he did?
I'm giving myself the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, Doublelift not impressive.
Wow.
Treats is the one that would have got me on that.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. Let's turn our attention to today's action with a quick look at the schedule. We've got Evil Geniuses and 100 Thieves who will take to the Rift first. That's all before Cloud9 faces off against CLG. And then, of course, Team Liquid squares off against TSM in that 3rd game of the day. That's the big one that we're spotlighting. Any potential tiebreakers, we have a maximum of up to 4 potential tiebreakers, will be played at the end of our regularly scheduled games, but they will be played out today. We'll keep you apprised all day long, though, of how that tiebreaker scenario continues to break down. Now, Team Liquid, they've already secured first place, but TSM will be playing today to secure that important second playoff bye. So let's talk there first.
Yeah, and it's really cool because they have so much history, especially in the mid lane between Bjergsen and Jensen. They were struggling last split individually and on their teams. Now they're 1-2 in the standings. They're arguably 1-2 in their positions as well. They both missed the All-Pro last split. That was the first time ever for Bjergsen not being on an All-Pro team. It was the second time for Jensen. The only other time was his first split when he was kind of adjusting to pro play. So it's insane that, they had this fall from grace and instantly bounced right back up to being the second and first best All-Pro mid laners.
So we got to take a look at that matchup a little bit further then, within the context of the actual game itself.
Yeah, a big matchup is going to be the mid lane. And honestly, Jensen has been such a performer for Team Liquid. Even when their team was struggling kind of in the early split, he was always the one to kind of carry these team fights. And since then, he's not just being a farm mid and playing team fights. He's actually kind of become a playmaker a bit more. Like when they were playing with Shin, he was actually the delivery system on Azir, which is pretty peculiar, but it was pretty exciting to see the mid laner to kind of take it up of him and be like, hey, you have Shin ult me, I'm going to go in. And honestly, it's becoming more of a control mage meta, and that just fits Jensen's style so well.
I think statistically, Jensen is just going to look a lot better since TSM has had a ton of experimentation, especially in the mid lane. But I think that's actually one of Bjergsen's strengths. Even when he is experimenting, he's still able to deliver and have that be a constant threat in the back of your mind, whether it's the Zillion that has been a steadfast presence in TSM's games since who knows how long, and always with a very high win rate, or even capable of playing an Akali as we saw last spring and is now getting buffed again. I think that Bjergsen, his consistent highs are actually better than Jensen's, and his bad games aren't ones where he feels like a non-factor, because that's the one thing that Jensen I hold over him against Bjergsen, is that when he looked bad in some games like the one against C9 just a few weeks ago, he was basically just carried by his team, whereas when Bjergsen has a bad game, it's because he picked Fiddlesticks in the mid lane and it was a terrible pick. It's not that his individual play is getting, well, the hard end of a Hecarim spear.
Yeah, well, so let's I think an amplifying or rather a magnifying factor to this matchup is the fact that we haven't seen them play in quite some time. So, Mark, let's remember the last time these teams faced off, because it was a rather dominant victory out of Team Liquid.
All the way back in week 1, Doublelift had gotten the better in laning phase, had a CSD lead over Tactical, but then they started picking on him in the mid to late game. This was also the Kane game for Spica, which really put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths about how they thought this roster would perform. They got dominated by Team Liquid the longer this game went on. Tactical looked amazing. He was getting set up by Core JJ. He was busting out the Bard already that early into the split, and it really made people think that, okay, TSM's going to be down here, TL's going to be up here, and then here we are at the end of the season, and they're neck and neck.
So that one will be a big decider match for the case of TSM today, wanting to win to force a tiebreaker against C9 or just take that second place bye outright. But because this is such a big matchup, we're going to bring back a fan favorite. Let's pull up the predictions and give them the weekly wager treatment. That's right. We're going to take a look at your predictions, and there is the difference in the third game of the day. Probably going with TSM, whereas the other two have Team Liquid. But today the rules are easy. If you predict the outcome of TL versus TSM like a clown, we're going to make you look like one. So there you have it.
Well, Mark's just making us look like clowns, though. That is a very impressive prediction record. I will say that might be the best one we've seen ever.
Yeah,
I would love the stats dive on that.
No compliments, Mark, please.
I want some more things to put on my resume. I need some help.
All righty. Well, we're going to step away for a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We got more Countdown coming at you after the break. Welcome back to the LCS Countdown. Voting gets underway tonight for the End of Split Awards. And for many, the Honda MVP race is now down to just 2 dudes. It's Core JJ for Team Liquid, and it's Bjergsen for TSM. So let's get into it. Who are you guys thinking? Let's start with Core JJ.
I mean, Core JJ has been incredible all split long. We just saw, going all the way back to that first games in week 1. He was popping off already on Bard. He is so good about setting his team up, roaming all over the map, coordinating with Jensen and Broxa. And I think he's doing things that no other support in the league is doing, which is one of the things I look at for MVP is, could you swap this person out? And I don't think anyone could have gotten the wins for Team Liquid in situations where he was able to do it. You're looking at that C9 game with the Blitzcrank pick, a lot of these different Bard games. He is so good, and if that's not enough, when you take a look at the stats, he's basically leading across the board for support players. I know it's one of those positions that is less stats-driven, but even then, you have to appreciate the fact that he's only had one isolated death while he's pulling off all these roams. You have to appreciate the highest vision score per minute and, the high KDA and all these different things, as well as high 4%, always being aggressive in the lane.
That might actually be the most impressive support stat I've ever seen in this many games. A single isolated death. How many times have we seen supports just get caught out in River when teams are warding and just die and lose the team everything? One is just bonkers.
Especially with how often this guy's roaming around the map.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's talk about his opponent, Bjergsen. What do you think, Crumbs?
I don't want to put down Core because it's making a great case for him. But Bjergsen's also doing a really good job. He's just like Core JJ in that you cannot replace him out of TSM and achieve the same results. His champion pool, I think, has been one of the most relevant when it comes to mid laners in this current meta, and he's able to assist his team in a way that Core JJ also does, which is playing those utility-style mid laners like the Twisted Fate, like the Zillion. But if he has to carry, he can. The LeBlanc is always ready to go, especially now that you've got Treats, who's capable of playing the Yuumi and helping him out as well. I think that the thing that Bjergsen has above a lot of other mid laners is that he is really clutch. When games start to matter, he delivers constantly. As we move into playoffs, it's almost a shame that we don't get to carry on the vote through the playoffs because the stakes aren't as high and we don't get to see that full performance. But statistically, I mean, second, third, and fourth in a league that's got 10+ mid laners, I think is a really good stat considering how many times he's mixed around his champion pool.
Probably, where are you in all this debate?
I mean, I gotta say, I do like both of these, mostly because these players are the ones that when the game kind of slows down and we're just stacking Drakes, they're usually the ones to break it open with some action, landing a Bard ult, landing a LeBlanc WRE, something like that. So I think it's really tough. Right now, I'm leaning more towards Core JJ, honestly, because the support pool is just kind of insane. And even the Bjergsen stats, he's second in a lot. So someone's beating him in stats. You can't really say that about Core JJ.
Okay, all right, interesting. That's very interesting. Of course, it is still a close race, and these two guys are going up against each other today. So is there any indication or any feeling that today might actually decide it?
Yeah. I think so.
There's going to be recency bias for sure.
And not just recency bias, but also just it is arguably a very important time for them. This is fighting for upper bracket. If Bjergsen pops off hard carries and helps secure his team upper bracket, assuming that they might even have to play a tiebreaker versus C9 again today, that's the kind of stuff where you're yes, that is an MVP. That is someone hard carrying his team across the line. So I do think, while I'm also leaning towards Core JJ right now, I am not locked in.
All right, fair enough. Now, noticeably absent from this conversation, the defending MVP, Blabber. So, I mean, is this real? Is he really not in contention?
I mean, he's on the ballot for sure, but I do think that there's just a black mark from C9's back half. In the first half of the split, we usually just didn't see Blabber for 5 minutes, and then he would show up and just wreck everyone on Olaf. Since then, the Trundles and the Volibears are kind of iffy performances. He hasn't really stood out as much as he did earlier on. There's other good junglers like Santorin, so the Mark's criteria of can any other player replicate this? Right now, I'd say yes for Blabber.
Interesting. All right. Well, MVP isn't the only prestigious honor that a pro can earn. There are plenty more. We here on the analyst desk have quite a few to dole out. First up on the docket here is most likely to break the meta, and it goes to none other. I think most people will get this one. Power of Evil.
He does the math on items and builds them as such, whether it's Nashor's Roa or Lichbane Orianna. He likes to experiment, and I like that he's actually thought about it before doing it.
I mean, so break the meta doesn't imply a positive thing, though, because, even though he mentioned that the build yesterday was suboptimal, if you break the meta, it should be in a positive way. You're doing something that's more than optimal.
You can't break the meta without breaking a few builds or something.
And not
you know?
every
You can't make
experiment's going to be a success, right?
There's a make a cake, break some eggs analogy in there. My point is, he acknowledges when it didn't quite work out. You know, he was that's something I really like about him is he's willing to respond to community criticism around his builds, explain his reasoning, and he's often, like you said, admitting like, okay, I thought I would get more auto attacks, and in hindsight, I didn't. This build wasn't great, but if I did do it optimally, I would have had like 7% higher DPM or whatever. So I appreciate the meta breaking power of evil.
Hey, I'm happy anytime a pro player demonstrates some critical thinking at the very least. And this is a guy who's actively looking to get better and find those minimal improvements, even if they are mathematical at heart. Next up, most outspoken, and it goes to Evil Geniuses, Sven Skaren.
Okay, this is a really good tweet out of Sven Skaren. Just, I think this was before they actually played against E9. Just a little bit of banter online, and you love to see that players take to social media and actually interact with each other, especially with the hashtag #LiveEvil, single-handedly doing the PR job for Evil Geniuses in a stellar way because it's caught on.
Yeah, I love the quantity as well of the quality. Some of them are not great, and he's just like, live evil, banger tweet to everything.
Yep.
So he's very loud in terms of outspoken, but then he also has a lot of really good ones about the my favorite was someone had gum stuck under their car door.
That was Acadian. I think that was Acadian. I felt so bad, but it was such a great response.
Yeah, live evil.
All right, well done, Sven, for being most outspoken for your team. Next, we have the most team spirit, and it goes to Alorum. Let's see it.
You know, Alorum, we need you, man. Get up there. I played 2 games. They're like, all right, Alorum, we don't need you anymore. Get back down there. And so here I am again, back with the main team. They brought me back up again, and when the situation gets its worst, that's when they call me. I'm the backup. I'm the savior of organizations. So here I am again.
Wherever the team needs him, at any moment, he'll be there.
I mean, I guess that's team spirit, though. He's willing to be whatever they need. That sounds like a lot of Alorum spirit, though. He's hyping himself up. You know, he's always there to – he's got, like, the anime spirit of,
hey,
like,
man,
never give up.
I don't think you could get thrown around by the team without having at least some kind of self-confidence in order to keep him moving forward, right?
The situation is dire, so they do need him to step up right now because they're still in playoffs. That's the craziest thing. Alorum could actually still make it.
They have a shot. They have a shot.
Yeah.
They're not in.
Okay, yeah, there's a shot.
All right. You know, Crumbs is making promises that he can't keep here. All right.
I know the script. I know what's
The
happening.
next one is a twofer here. This goes to Best Comeback, and it'll be for both Afro Moo and Huhi.
Yep,
And then
CLG.
roll.
The CLG boys, right, Mark?
Yep.
I mean, Huhi didn't even have a permanent starting spot in spring, so finally getting his starting spot in summer, and he's been performing great. GGS has been kind of on the uptick. I know they had this 0-2 weekend, but going into playoffs, definitely following this guy's career.
It's great to see Afro bouncing back as well after having some of the down splits. He's been incredible, and I think it's great that it's a contract split for him. You know, he's going to be a free agent, I believe, at the end of this year. So put in a good performance to help negotiate.
There you
And
have
for
it.
putting his life in the line for his marksman multiple times, too. That's
Yeah.
pretty exciting.
Yeah. Flashing onto that Caitlyn trap yesterday. Love to see it. Okay, next up, Best Bromance, and I think everyone knows who this is going to. It's the Swall Bros. Sven and Golden Glue reunited, and it feels so good.
That's a Photoshop. Golden Glue is 7 feet tall, and Sven Skaren is not.
Yeah. Of the Photoshops we've had, this is maybe the closest to reality, because at least they are swole. But yeah, the height discrepancy not coming through.
Small
There.
height discrepancy.
It's cool to see them back together again, though. I hope they are able to start working a little bit better with the rest of their team. I think their synergy has been good so far, but definitely
I mean, you
EG
have
is
now
not
you
looking
have
great.
Kumo, Zazel, Sven, Golden Glue, like everybody's on that. They're all reunited.
Well,
but
what
those
about,
two definitely leading the pack.
What about the Huni Bang, right? They played on SKT together. That should be a little...
That's also true.
Little
Look,
side
you got
bromance, too,
connections
with
all over the place over there at Evil Geniuses. Next up is Most Athletic. Most Athletic. And it goes to TSM's Bjergsen.
So for people who don't know how we're classifying most athletic, when we think athletic people, it's like they can pick up any sport and be good at it. That's Bjergsen with champions. He can pick up any champion, master it, and then pull it out on stage. Whether it's Cho'Gath mid, he's playing Urgot mids back in the day. This split's been the Fiddlesticks mid. I saw him playing Nunu mid in solo queue. They didn't play it on stage, but he has that in his back pocket.
Bazillion, LeBlanc, he can play it all.
I mean, I think most athletic, honestly, Mark, is more about how hard he can carry. And he's got that strong back. You know, some might call it a barrel of snakes, but he's just carrying TSM so hard. That's why he's most athletic.
It's a classic barrel of snakes back.
That's not a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic, Mark. Don't
Wouldn't that
deny
just be
it.
strongest if you're talking about best carry potential? Like, wouldn't it be a
Yeah,
strongman?
no,
award,
I'm
not mass-
actually with you, Mark. That most athletic is a person who can
made
quite
these
easily
categories.
adapt and pick up new sports and physical activities. So I would
Flexibility.
say Bjergsen's adaptability to the game itself is what
Crumbs?
makes him athletic. What was that?
Flexibility is good.
Yeah. Well, flexibility is a trait of
Yeah,
being
all right.
athletic, so I see it.
Well, damn, did we just give out the wrong award? Now
We should change it to
we got
flexibility.
to take it back. All right, we've got one final award to give out. This is the most important award of the split. It goes to coolest mom, Julie Gilmer. You are the coolest mom.
I just love it. So on the nose. So just suck it.
It's so accurate. It's so good. I love it.
This was after EG beat Golden Guardians, the team that technically kicked him or her son.
I love that kind of support. She's all over social media. Her love for the game, her love for her son, of course, fantastic. So a much-deserved Coolest Mom award to Julie Gilmer. With just a few minutes, though, to go before Game 1, let's go ahead and take a look at Evil Geniuses versus 100 Thieves to see how Golden Glue is going to do today. What happened to 100 Thieves yesterday?
They had probably one of the worst collapses I've seen in the minute. I mean, when you get in these high tense moments, I understand the exact right macro call can be hard to figure out, but some of this stuff is like, come on, it's pretty obvious. You get the Baron, you all want to recall, and Ezreal hits you with a 5-man Ezreal ultimate. That gives vision. You know that. You cannot just stop in the brush and press B again. And they have Bard. They could have tunneled out right away. That someone could have gone over the wall. And then after this point, they have no idea what they're trying to do. Like, Phoenix is chasing them down. You need to kill Phoenix to stop him. You know, instead they're trying to heal and just run away and slow him. Like, this was such a disaster because if anyone could have got back just a little bit earlier, this probably could have been stopped and defended.
And it's not like Camille just randomly showed up in the bottom lane. She didn't TP. She was just shoving down bot lane casually. So when they signed up to do the Baron, they already were under the idea that, hey, Camille is going to backdoor. You need to make sure that you recall. The enemy might try to stop your ports and play the split push, since that's what they've been doing all game long.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why it's such a painful moment because, yeah, they're under pressure. They made the right decision. We need a 5-man rush Baron while Camille's split pushing. And then the mind kind of just broke down. They're like, well, we got the Baron. What's the next step? Oh, no, they're chasing us.
Yeah, didn't have that foresight, as Crumbs said, to know what would need to follow the Baron take itself. Now, on the flip side, despite a rough start in their game, Evil Geniuses, they kept composure against Golden Guardians and did pull out that victory yesterday.
Yeah, they fell 10K gold down and were able to swing it back in their favor. It didn't happen instantly, but they understood, like, hey, we need to throw some kills and picks in the side lanes. They would sometimes lose the Baron to make sure that they were killing people. And it threw enough of a wrench in Golden Guardians' plan to eventually be able to find the bigger pickoffs to get them back in the game and actually win it. They won with a gold deficit, which spoke to how hard it probably was for them to find these kills and get into the game.
Those two big picks were Golden Glue, right? Catching the Echo, Damonte in the bottom lane, actually even taking away the Magi stack, so a little bit of cash influx there, as well as then TPing and catching the Nidalee. And we heard from his interview saying, we just needed to get to the point where we felt like our comp was just going to win, and that's a scaling feel. That's someone that's, when you play a scaling comp, you're very used to that feeling, like, all right, we're down gold, but we're online, let's go.
And both these teams are locked into their current playoff positioning. And so what's interesting to look at with this is looking forward into like best of fives. And when the pressure's going to get high and you're going to struggle and you're going to have to make these tough decisions, EG was able to lock it down and figure out what they needed to get back in the game, whereas 100 Thieves completely blew apart. They have a lot of younger players on that lineup, and I think it kind of showed there. And if they want to have a good run in playoffs, they'll need to shore up some of this more late-game decision-making. That seems like it was a big problem yesterday.
What's the learning for EG on the fact that they fell behind, or rather, probably how does them falling behind interact with those statistics we were looking at yesterday about how Huni seems to be better when he is just ignored by his team and left on an island?
Well, I mean, I think yesterday kind of exposed a bit of their draft. I think they've had draft problems for a while, and I think yesterday was one where they had so many losing lanes, losing jungle matchup that, yeah, Golden Guardians really took a heavy lead. But EG showed that they're resilient, so that means if you can back up the early game a bit more, that resiliency is going to be a lot easier to deal with. You won't have to keep, digging into the barrel of we're 10K down, but come on, guys, we still have a chance. So I think the draft is going to be something that they look at. The Huni doing better without resources thing, I think is an anomaly. I don't think anyone's solving that. There's no coach, there's no player that's like, all right, we're going to start, make no one go to Huni, guys. He's going to do better this way. It's just some crazy thing.
It is going to be a very interesting top lane matchup, though, in this one because, of course, you've got Someday opposite him. And every time we look at 100 Thieves and we think Someday, we think, what do we think, Crumbs?
Well, he's 8-3, so you got to put him on the offense.
There it is.
But someone didn't read my card.
I mean, I agree, but he can play. His Ornn game was good yesterday. He was playing Ornn well. It's
They
just
lost.
It's not his fault.
Yeah. His Ornn play is good, but as a team, he needs to do more than a good tank. He needs to do more than that.
All right, with that, I think it's time for us to take a back seat and let the casters take it away. Freaking Kobe, get us into the games.